We know our schools are in crisis. We know many of our schools are falling apart in our community areas. We know about all the social problems. We know about how you are not getting the right or the appropriate support from the state and the education department. We know you don't have enough teachers, but you are not alone. There are many schools in your neighborhood and in our community areas, in our townships. So there are many schools and they're all facing the same problem and they all have the same profile socially and even the learners that attended school. Now, my question is how can one poor school, the school that draws children from the same community that you are drawing children from, and they bring in all their social issues and everything into the school, but that school will be able to have a disciplined, warm, engaging, thriving school environment where the teachers are happy, relatively happy because we know all the trauma that people experience. And then at your school, there is chaos. The children are wild, they're shouting, they're swearing, there is just no order at the school, and you have a high absentee rate of teachers as well. And so, my question is today, what role are you playing as a principal? Hello, this is Sharon. We're going to shoot right from the hip today because I think it's a critical issue. I am very concerned about what I see happening at our schools where there's a complete breakdown and we tend to just deflect. Like I said, we all know that our main stakeholders, like the parents, are not playing their role. We know that the state and the education department are not helping you to make it any easier, but the point is you have a responsibility to ensure that your school is functioning well. And so we're not even going to talk about schools in well resourced areas and the type of child that they are attracting. We are talking about your school in a neighborhood that has the same profile as the school that is down the road. And I've seen this. As I explained in previous videos, I spent 38 years in education, 25 years of that in the classroom and as a school leader. And then, of course, I went to work at the district. And I worked at a school that was in the neighborhood, in the township, in the community. And yes, things have gotten worse. But this is the big question that I want to pose to all our principals who are accomplices in making our schools ungovernable. I'm saying you are an accomplice because you have been appointed to be the person who sets the tone at the school. You are the one who is supposed to lead all of us, the teachers, the support staff, the learners. And you must articulate what is the mission of the school. What is the big goal of the school? And then you must lead us in that direction. And if we step out of line, then you must call us out. And there are legal laws that can help you, and there are support at the district who you can call upon to help you if you experience a problem in terms of teacher or other adults who are working into school and they are giving you grief and they are not playing the game with you to ensure that your school is a palace for the children when they come there. It is your role as the principal to ensure that the school functions well. Now, look, you have been appointed at the school, so we can all assume that the committee, I'm talking about the school governing body, when they nominated you for that post, they saw that you have the qualities and you have the experience, you have the skills, and you have the knowledge that can help to move the school. And that is why they made that nomination and they let the department know that this is the person we feel will be able to take our school to greater heights, where the learners can be successful and the teachers can perform their jobs as they should and be comfortable and happy and bring out the best in our children. So that is not a question. The question then is, if you have the hard skills, if you know how to do the implementation of policies, and you know the administration, and you know how to keep the the system happy in terms of being compliant in terms of the paperwork, then I'm saying we have to then look at what are your soft skills like. And this is where I am suggesting that you go through a self reflection process, and you have to be honest with yourself. You need to have that courageous conversation with yourself and say, who am I? And what do I want for the school? What is my personal mission? What is my personal mission for the school? And how would I like the team of adults, whether they are in the classroom teaching or whether they are support staff and they're helping to keep the grounds clean and make sure that all the admin is done so that the school functions as a well oiled machine. The point is, what is your vision? What is your desire for your school? And then you need to ask questions about your leadership style. What is your leadership style? How do you like to communicate with people? Now, you might be a warm person, a people centered person. You like to have open communication with everybody and you like to keep everybody happy. But now there's a flip side. You might be that person and people will enjoy you. But if you don't feel comfortable, if you struggle with calling people out when they don't do what they are supposed to be doing at the school, then that is an area that you have to note and you have to find ways to turn around that situation. In other words, you're going to have to go through some training. You're going to have to ask for mentors to help you become more assertive, because it is your responsibility to call out those teachers and the staff who are not really deep down caring for our children. If they are staying absent and they become chronic absentees, then there is a labor process that must be followed, and you need to call the person out. You need to call Sharon out. If I just stay home and my colleagues must now look after my kids, and I'm not really concerned, and I'm not talking about someone who has serious medical challenges or serious psychological issues. I'm not talking about those special cases. I'm talking about colleagues who decide that they are going to just stay home and they have a pattern of being out of school and you are not addressing it. Let me tell you, you are dropping the ball. And those teachers know that you are not going to reprimand them. You are not going to show them the law and tell them that this is the situation. You can even call on the unions to assist you. And you can have that open conversation and say, no, Sharon, this is the pattern that I'm observing. I'm concerned about it. The children are missing out on work. Your colleagues are having to substitute because we don't have money to pay for casual employment here. So our colleagues are picking up the burden. And then you must find out how are you now going to deal with that situation. And it's tough. It's tough to have those conversations. It's not easy to speak to another adult. It's not easy to speak to an aggressive person. And that might be a personality issue that you are going to have to address. You don't have to learn to shout. You don't have to become angry and not address people respectfully, but you need to learn how can you assertively point out where teachers and yourself are dropping the ball, where you are not doing what you are supposed to do, and why the behavior is out of control at your school. Because remember, you have discipline policies. And when you come to the school and your teachers come to the school, then your school is your oasis. Your school is your safe place for you and your staff. And so when the learners come there, you are in control, you are in command, your teachers work with you, your S&T, your leadership team works with you, and you as a team of adults, as experienced and professional adults that we have appointed at our school to help our children, you need to take control and you need to let people know this is how we want things to happen at our school. This is what our school is going to be known for. We believe that we must have good discipline here. And we're going to inculcate those good behaviors. And we're going to address the bad behaviors. But we're going to bring along everybody, the teachers and the learners, to ensure that everybody knows this is the school culture. This is what we do at our school. And that is critical, colleagues. If you are the principal and your school is becoming so toxic that learning and teaching can't take place at your school, and your teachers, even your good teachers, are becoming more demoralized, more depressed, and more tempted to leave the school, then you need to sit up and say that as the principal, who not only has been appointed, but somebody who has the skill set and perhaps just have to work on your personal qualities, your interpersonal skills, so that you can become a strong person and face the monsters that are turning your school into a chaotic environment. So I would suggest that you actually write down, what are your strengths? What are you very good at in terms of your character and personality? And I'm sure you have many good qualities. And those qualities are probably being put to very good use at your school. But then you also have to ask yourself, in which areas am I really struggling? Am I struggling because I don't like conflict? I am terrified to face a situation where I'm going to be in a situation where I need to deal with conflict and different personalities. Now, that is good if you can call that out. And then once you've accepted that, because that's all of us, we all have our shortcomings. Once you know what your shortcomings are, then you can say, fine, I don't feel comfortable about this. I don't feel happy about this. I also can see what's happening at the school. And I'm also beginning to doubt whether I was the right appointee. But perhaps I need to just recognize that there are certain interpersonal communication skills that I lack. So I'm going to have to work on that as a matter of urgency. Then, once you've listed what are your fears, what is really holding you back from doing what you wanted to do when you became a principal? Once you go through that process, which is uncomfortable, it can be very traumatizing as well. But we all have to do that. And we need a cheerleading group. So you need to find yourself that support group at your school, whether they are in your leadership team or whether it's teachers who can just support you and you can be your authentic self and tell them that this is what you need to work on and whether they will help you and hold you accountable. And I'm sure they'll do that. Because when I was at school, I had mentors and people who were supporting me. I had cheerleaders. And I just veered, I think, to the opposite side of being a more gentle person. I was the opposite of that. And I think I tended to be a little bit more aggressive. Although I didn't quite understand that at the time because I just thought people are just saying I'm aggressive, but it's probably because I'm more direct and I'll point things out and I will stand by what I want in terms of what we need to do at the school. But then I also had my friends, my colleagues at the school would be my cheerleaders and also call me out. Because if you look at your other colleagues in your own community, you can see that they are winning. And they may not be the right people to talk to because they may not articulate clearly to you, or they may not want to offend you to tell you something. But you could ask questions. You can just say, what do you do when your teachers stay absent? Chronically absent, and the person doesn't have a medical situation, then what do you do? What do you do when teachers come late? Because that is also a behavior problem, and that also affects your school culture. So we can't just look at our children. We need to look at our staff room because that is where the school culture starts. We need to say, are we modeling that behavior? We tell the children don't swear and dress appropriately. Is that what we model when the children see us? Do they hear us talking politely to them? Do they hear us talking respectfully to them? Do they hear compliments from us? Do they hear us praising them sometimes when they do something that is good and deserves a compliment? Or do we just focus on the negative? Do we just look for all the problems and so we train our brains just to see problems and problems and problems? So whenever we come there, it's you came late again, you did this, you didn't do your homework, you didn't. But are you, as the principal, are you seeing your staff modeling that same behavior as adults in your staff room? Are your teachers coming late? Are your teachers submitting their marks late? Are your teachers disrespectful to their colleagues? Are your teachers not contributing to a conversation about how can we turn things around? Those are the hard questions you're going to have to ask. And we can't deflect. We can't ignore and we can't deflect. We can't just say it's the parents, they are not teaching their children manners. Now, that is true. Many of our parents have just forsaken their parental duties. But now, who are we as teachers? We are now the adults. The children don't know any better. So we need to articulate those behaviors that we want them to show. They must model those behaviors for us. But then we need to model it as well. Because we can't tell a child, you came late or you stayed absent, and we are doing the very same, but we're sitting in the staff room, so we just say different strokes for different folks. Schools culture, a school's culture that breaks down to a point where the children are in charge. It is my firm belief that you, the principal, and your teachers have handed over your power to children. You have created a power vacuum, and so the children see that. You are showing that you are inconsistent. So they must always go to Mrs. Lewin because Mrs. Lewin is the disciplinarian. And so when the children perform, they must go to Mrs. Lewin, and Mrs. Lewin is the one who must then reprimand the learners. That is deflection. That is showing that you are not in control and you are just passing the buck. And the children see through us when we demonstrate those weaknesses. And so that you are not going to build their respect for you. You are, in fact, just building respect for the person you're sending the child to, and you're just bolstering that person's confidence, and you perhaps also encouraging that person to be more of a dictator and not someone who's going to try and transform the behavior, plus, of course, implement the school rules. So we need to take responsibility, and you, as the principal, you must make an assessment of how many of your teachers are really seriously deep down loyal to that school. How many of them are really contributing to a positive discipline culture at the school? And if you can't say 90 to 100% of your teachers are contributing to creating that positive ethos, that happy, disciplined school system or climate where everything runs to a regular rhythm, then I'm saying your problem of having a toxic culture is bigger than those poor children who are coming to your school. The root may lie in that staff room. And that is what you, as the principal, are going to have to address and turn around with your staff. We cannot get away from that. We cannot get away from that. So, at some point, you're going to have those hard conversations with your staff as well. And then, of course, you need to speak to your SMT as well. So, I'm just throwing things out here in terms of how did we land up in the situation where the school is like one big mess? And we have to look at all the role players at the school, and then, of course, at the pilot, the person who is, in fact, supposed to help lead us and guide us and help us grow. Right? And you are not alone. So I'm not addressing you as the principal alone. But for the sake of this video, we're just zooming in on your role, because we're also going to look at what is the role of the SMT, what is the role of the teacher in terms of building that positive culture where learners can learn and teachers can teach. And we are not suggesting that you won't have problems, but the problems cannot be more than the moments of discipline at your school, right? So you must start the process. And then you need to speak to your leadership team at the school. And your leadership team must also take responsibility after you, because they are also the leaders at the school. And they have also been appointed to help support you to create an environment at the school where we can really help the children to grow into well balanced adults and to succeed academically as well. And the learners must be helped to become better people. And if they don't know how to do it, we're going to have to teach them. We're going to have to inculcate those values, because they are not learning those values at home. At home, perhaps everybody shouts, everybody talks, they don't know how to address the parents. And when they come to school, you know your community very well. So you will know that that is the culture out there. And that is probably the culture in the learner's home. But that's not the culture that you are promoting at your school. And so you can't assume the child who's spending his or her life in the community there will know that once they walk through the school gates, they must now adopt a different set of rules or a different culture. They need to be taught. Behavior is taught and modeled and monitored. And when we say monitored, we mean monitored for when the child is going off course, but also monitored to shout praises when the child is on track. So we have to teach the children this is how we do things at the school. And you have to model it so that they can internalize those values and those behaviors, because nobody else is doing it outside. So we can stand on the rooftops and say the parents are not making sure that the children know how to behave when they are at school. That you now know. The reality is that we need to look at what are you doing as the principal. You've been appointed. You know that, and we know that. And we know you had big dreams when you raised your hand to say, I am ready to lead a group of professionals to help our children succeed. That was your dream, and that is still your dream. And so now you have to fight those demons within you because it's all about how we have mastered who we are and how we have accepted our flaws and our strengths. And if we have flaws that are making it difficult and helping to feed into the toxic culture at our school, then we have to say, I need to do something about this character weakness that I have, right? We have to just call it out and then work on a plan to help ourselves. Now, that is step one when you want to start the process because at the end of the day, your school has to become a disciplined space. We cannot allow our children to be attending school where there's no discipline. And so you're going to have to work on that with your SMT and with your staff. So step one is really looking at yourself first. First, doing that introspection. And then step two would be to speak to your leadership team, your SMT. And there is where you're going to have acknowledged that you have dropped the ball. And once you have acknowledged that you are taking responsibility for the bad situation at your school, but in the same breath, it's not just about you, it's also about who else dropped the ball. So you first need to be humble enough and vulnerable enough to take responsibility and tell your SMT team that you take responsibility, but they also need to take responsibility because it wasn't a one man show, right? And so after talking to your SMT, you need to then speak to your staff and let them know what the turnaround strategy is going to be. Now, even when you speak to your SMT, you should have, in your own reflection, you should have identified what are the big issues, which are the big disciplinary issues that you need to address as a matter of urgency. And so just identify three, right? It could be two of learner behavior issues, and it could be one staff behavioral issue that you raise. You must be clear on what you are taking to your SMT so that you can tell them this is what you have come up with, and they can then tell you what they regard as the biggest problems. Because you can't solve all the problems in one go, but you need to target the ones that you know you're going to get an almost immediate turn around. And when I say immediate, I'm talking about a couple of months because it's something we're going to have to do consistently, regularly, and there's going to be drops and there's going to be ups and all that. So by the time you get to the staff, you can present your discipline turnaround that you as a school would like to implement. And then again, consult with the teachers and ask for the input, and they can also again give their input. And be very aware that some are going to try and deflect. Some are going to try to gaslight you. And that is why you need to be very clear of what you want, what is going to be your own development plan, what are the three discipline areas that you know that you're going to have to work on as a school, and then take that to your SMT and discuss it with the staff. You may even with the SMT. You may even be gaslit by your own SMT, by the way, because some of there may be a leadership crisis at your school where there's a leadership identity crisis at your school, and some department heads and the deputy principal may not be working with you, and this is the ideal time to address it. And it's not a matter of blaming and name calling and gaslighting. You're going to have to be firm and assertive. And that is why I said you need to get yourself mentors and people who can support you. So, because this is going to be a very difficult time, especially if you're moving out of your comfort zone. But you know, the bigger goal is to get the school discipline so that your teachers who want to teach can teach, and the learners who have to learn can learn. That is how what your big goal should be. And so when you have that whole team already, lovely big group, you can then go to your staff and then present the plan, explain, tell them you're taking accountability, tell them where you've dropped the ball, what has made you realize that you need to take full responsibility for the way forward. You need to lead as you should, and your SMT has committed to that same attitude and the same goals, and they can also in the meeting explain they can voice it and say yes, that you've taken a responsibility as a leadership team, and now you're coming to the staff and you just want to lay down those three areas for behavior improvement at the school that will affect teachers and staff. And then, of course, you can send a letter to your parents to tell them that this is how you are going to move forward. And if you start and you are consistent and you are persistent and you do not take your eye off the ball, even if things get difficult, I can tell you now that you will see a change in the behavior at your school. So I'm looking forward to some input on this video because it's a difficult subject to discuss, because it's so easy for us just to blame everybody else. But we need to take responsibility if we are the principal of the school, if we are the SMT of the school as well. But this principal is the one whose head must roll when things get out of control. And that is what this video is about. Give me some feedback in the video to let me know what you think. What you think about what I have said, and whether you would like to continue this conversation. And then also, if you know of people who need to hear the brutal truth, the hard truth, the truth that we are all responsible, and if we drop the ball, we need to blame ourselves as well. If you think somebody can benefit from this conversation that I have here, then share freely with whoever. But keep the conversation going in the comments and let me know how you feel about us talking about these hard topics. So the next video, of course, I'll be speaking about the deputy's role in terms of helping to change the situation where we have a breakdown of discipline and behavior at our school, whether it's in the classroom only or whether it's in the classroom and the staff room. What is the role of the other key players like your SMT and then, of course, the teachers as well? So, on that note, I'll see you next time.